Hey everyone, today we're going to be testing out the Chaos Emperor Dragon custom archetype. Here we go. Opening up with Guard of the Emperor, Merchant of the Emperor, Allure of Darkness, Sacrifice for the Emperor, and Chaos Emperor. Now I'll start off by saying that this deck requires setup, so you might not be able to see its full power on display here in this test hand, but we'll demonstrate as much as we can. We'll start off by activating that Allure of Darkness, draw 2, and banish Merchant of the Emperor. So banishing Merchant of the Emperor as well as Soul of the Emperor, which you don't see here. Banishing those is cool because they have abilities that activate while banished, where you can send it and a light monster back to the graveyard to either draw a card with Merchant or Soul of the Emperor, special summon a Chaos Emperor monster from your graveyard. Now, we've got, and I said this deck requires some setup, but we've actually got the setup that we need to get things going here. We would normal summon Guard of the Emperor, activate Sacrifice for the Emperor, which allows us to tribute one of the Emperor monster and special summon another one with a different name from our deck. So let's tribute Guard of the Emperor and bring out whichever one that we want to bring out, but let's bring out Advisor of the Emperor. And the cool thing about Advisor of the Emperor, Guard of the Emperor, and Knight of the Emperor is that while they're in the graveyard, they are also treated as dark monsters. So now we have a light monster on the field and a dark monster in the graveyard. Chaos Emperor has its special summoning requirement where you can banish a light and dark monster from either side of the field and or graveyards. So it could be an opponent's monster if they had one, but in our case, if we're going first, we would banish the Advisor of the Emperor from our field and the Guard of the Emperor from our graveyard, which counts for our light and dark monster, to special summon Chaos Emperor from our hand. Now, when you use Guard, Advisor, or Knight of the Emperor to special summon one of your Chaos Emperor monsters, they gain certain effects depending on which ones you use. Knight of the Emperor, which is not seen here, would allow us to activate our Chaos Emperor monster's ability as a quick effect. Guard of the Emperor grants it protection from targeting and destruction of card effects. An Advisor of the Emperor grants its ability to create a floodgate against special summoning except for Chaos Emperor monsters. The reason why I say this is amazing is because you could literally just leave Chaos Emperor on the field here and it is protected from targeting and destruction as well as preventing your opponent from special summoning. So really the only way that they can get around this is to either negate its effect or to swing over it with something bigger. But you could also, if you wanted to, use Chaos Emperor's ability, tribute it, and special summon Chaos Emperor Dragon Envoy of the End from your hand, then send all other cards on your hand and field and your opponent's hand and field to the graveyard, leaving you with a 3000 attack monster on the field and your opponent with nothing, getting into a top deck war against a pretty formidable boss monster in its own right. But not only that, you also have Merchant of the Emperor's ability to send it and another light monster back to the graveyard to draw one card. So we've got 2 cards to our opponent's nothing, which gives us a huge advantage again in this top deck war where we already have 3000 attack on the board. Let's go again and see what we come up with. Okay, all right. So we opened up with 3 copies of Envoy of the End, Guard of the Emperor, and the Emperor's Feast. So again, this is one of those hands that probably requires a bit more setup, that we can't just throw things on the field on our first turn. We would activate that Emperor's Feast, send a probably Advisor or Knight of the Emperor to the grave. You could also send Soul or Merchant if you wanted to be able to activate their banished effects eventually. But let's go ahead and send Advisor to the graveyard. Let's set Guard of the Emperor. Now, depending on what our opponents does, they could OTK us because we don't really have much protection other than that 2000 defense right here. But say they give us another turn and we've got this in the graveyard. Now, of course, we have all 3 of our Chaos Emperor dragons. We can special summon it by banishing Guard and Advisor. And again, since we've used these 2 to special summon a Chaos Emperor monster, this is protected by targeting and by destruction by card effects, as well as creating a floodgate against special summoning. And then, of course, you could activate Chaos Emperor Dragon's ability to pay 1,000 life points and send all cards on both players' hand and field to the graveyard, again creating that top deck war. So as you can see, this deck can often require some setup in the graveyard to get things going, but when it does, it has the ability to put out strong boss monsters that come with special effects granted by the other of the Emperor monsters, as well as the ability to create a top deck war. Now we didn't quite see it, but when you do get into a top deck war, this deck has the ability to help you get out of it faster, such as through cards like Merchant of the Emperor, as we saw, that gives you an extra draw, Soul of the Emperor, which helps you recoup those monsters that you lost by special summoning a Chaos Emperor monster from your graveyard. And then the last card, two cards that we have that we didn't show, was Vengeance of the Emperor, which you can banish from your graveyard to special summon a Chaos Emperor monster from your grave, then discard a card from your opponent's hand. And the reason why this is really cool is that say we were able to resolve Chaos Emperor Dragon's ability and send everything on the field and hand to the graveyard. Now both you and your opponent have 0 cards. Your opponent gets into their draw phase, draws a card, and you can immediately activate Vengeance of the Emperor, banish it, special summon the Chaos Emperor Dragon, and discard the card that they just drew. So now in this top deck war, they have nothing except whatever they have in their graveyard, and you have a 3,000 attack beat stick. The other card that helps you in your top deck war is Shadow Chaos Emperor. And the way that Shadow Chaos Emperor works is that you can special summon it by banishing a Chaos Emperor monster from your graveyard. And when it is summoned this way, it banishes all cards in both players' graveyards. And the reason that's important because, of course, nowadays, so many decks are able to turn their graveyard into a second hand. And so this allows you to truly turn the game state into a top deck war where your opponent has nothing in their graveyard, hand, or field, and you have this 3,000 attack beat stick that not only banishes things on summon, but sends any card that is sent to the graveyard is banished as well. So there you have the Chaos Emperor custom archetype. As you can see, sometimes the deck does require some setup, but it is designed to help you ensure that you can win the top deck war after you resolve the effects of one of the Chaos Emperor monsters. Check out the rest of the showcase there in the card in the corner or the link in the description, and make sure you like and subscribe as we get into the next villains monster coming up tomorrow.